Does my hair look fucked up?
Nah, you look beautiful. Don't you worry. You're looking good. Yeah. Yeah. Do that more. Woo!
I don't have any hair.
It moves around a little bit.
Yeah, it's got that little like.
It's like a shimmer, you know?
Yep.
You're like, I love feeling the wind in my hair. And they're like, but what is it doing?
It is gently. Wafting's not a good word for it, but I'll keep it.
I mean, it's better than being like bald, because then you're like, I love the wind on my scalp. On my bare skin is
That's
what
true.
I enjoy.
Yeah, that's true. I do not want to go bald.
I'm not
today.
looking forward to it. I'm really not. Like, there's like, here's the thing is, I always have that option where I could just kill myself instead.
That's
So
true. That's always.
I
an
just
option.
really, yeah, that's the one thing I always like come back to is
the
like,
one
man,
constant.
if I don't want to deal with this, I just die. Like,
It's
it'd be fine.
100% true. Yeah, no. My dad and my uncle, they're very bald. It's not looking good.
I mean, I think you'd be a cute boy bald. Don't you worry. I'd still give
I
you
don't know.
kisses. So
I would. Oh, God damn, you're so cute. Yeah, I think. Well, I mean, if it happens, I would just go full bald, but I would still keep the beard.
yeah, me too. It's like I've got to have some version of hair on my head that's not just my creepy ass eyebrows.
Right.
So here's the thing, though. Like, if I go full bald, I can't have just a mustache because that's like a no-no.
sure?
That's like
You
a
sure?
real pedophile look.
You don't want that
Yeah.
PI Magnum look?
No, because like once you go full bald, it's like, bro, you already look creepy as fuck, and you're gonna add the additional layer of creep that is a mustache? No.
I always, anytime I shave, which isn't often because my wife, like, anytime she asks me
You
to
got
shave,
some
it's
dope ass lines though, dude. I
always,
see that.
yeah,
It's like
thank you.
craftsmanship right
I
there.
know. It's off, by the way, but that's all my wife wants me to do is like literally cut this part and like make it nice, and then just keep it at around this length. Any type of like, I'm always like, oh, I'm gonna just shave it all off, or I'm just gonna keep a mustache. She fucking flips. She's like,
Dude,
no.
I don't understand the problem that people have with mustaches. Like, okay, I just said that like the bald and the mustache thing, yeah, it would be creepy. But here's the thing, like, if I just, like, I keep a little bit of stubble, but I still have a mustache, like, this is a good caterpillar right here. This would be good.
True.
And also, my mustache doesn't attach to my fucking beard, and it annoys the shit out of me anyway. So it's like, why not just have a mustache at this
true.
point?
I mean, yeah, if it's not gonna connect, might as well just have it. I just
It's
can't
fucking
deal with
dumb.
it because it gets too much. Like, I always have the hairs right here, right below
Poke
your
you
nose.
in the nose?
They always poke me in the nose, and I'm fucking like, and like I have a problem with. I think I have like a form of like a very light form of Tourette's because I always got to scratch my face. I don't know what it is. I'm the worst with this kind of COVID shit. Like,
Well, that was the thing. Like, the whole statistic that came out was, like, people touch their face, like, thousands of times a day or, like, hundreds or thousands of times a day.
For me, it's like
And
a
then
million. I know.
During
it's like,
COVID, we're like, fuck.
yeah, I always scratch it. Like, you'll see it on this video. I'm constantly going like this.
Oh,
I'm
me too.
Fucking
Yeah.
touching myself, popping my earphones out of my face. Like, it's just too much for me. I don't know why.
Always
I'm
touch
talking
my
about
face.
it, so it's getting me all riled up.
Yeah, it's like when you think about an itch and you're like, fuck, my head itches.
You gotta do it. You gotta do it. We should probably start the episode.
Yeah.
This
Hello
is
and welcome to Indie Pod, an indie games podcast, your weekly source for all the indie games news you need to know. This week, we are bringing you zero news stories, big fat goose egg. Instead, we
Hell
are
yeah.
doing our indie game of the year episode. We like kind of just like randomly threw this together and like, let's just fucking do this because it's
That's kind of our thing. Is everything is very impromptu. I like
Yeah.
our planning is pretty much none.
seeing the things we plan for never go right, but everything that we just wing, fucking streamlined. It's good. It's like fucking just chef's kiss. Okay, so winging it, that's our style. That's
I
how
guess
we
so.
do things.
That's kind of how I've always been, to be honest. Like school and like presentations and things for work, I'm always like, I'll practice it once and then I'm just like, we'll see how it goes. Like I've just always been like that.
And the thing with school that I find so interesting is that there's so much like planning they would like you to do, and I'm like, I mean, you can have all the planning you want, but let's be honest, I'm going to write this paper the day of anyway, so it's not going to matter. And then I get an A anyway, so I'm just like, fucking
what do I need to do? See, I was the opposite. I would do it like 2 weeks early and then just never touch it. And I'd just be like, when it happens, it happens. Like I'm like a weird, like won't procrastinate, but I'll get everything done. But then the minute I'm done with it, I'll never look at it again, even if they're like, you did it wrong. And I was like, well, it's done. So I'm going to get the grade I get.
You're like, whatever. I'm not going back to it. It's like,
What is a rough draft but the actual product?
But before we get into any of our shenanigans that we've already been doing for like 5-10 minutes, what is this? Yeah, 5 minutes.
5 minutes, yeah.
I would like to introduce myself, Von Hyde, alongside my illustrious co-host, the biggest of average Josh Boys. How you doing today, Big Josh Boy?
I'm doing well. It's it's a couple days after Christmas, but it's the holiday time, so I still got time off. I'm just hanging out. I've literally sat in this room for just about all day. It's been nice.
I thought you were going to say just about all week. Like
just about all week?
Yeah, she's like, will you come out, please? And you're just like, no, go away. It's my vacation time.
Yeah, no, something like that. No, surprisingly, I haven't played, I haven't had that much time for games, even though it's like holidays and stuff, because we've seen family and done like other stuff.
Yeah, holidays are supposed to be like a week or like a day of relaxation. It never is.
It never is, dude, and it sucks too because I took these 2 weeks off. I ended up saving like all my days and taking it off. And it's the way it worked out was there's so many days where they're holidays is I feel like I don't have a lot of days to actually do things. So I had these big plans where I was like, I'm gonna get this done and this done and this done, and I'm gonna play all these games and I'm gonna get so much shut. And now we're like halfway into this break of mine, and I'm like, I don't think I've done anything.
That's what I'm saying, dude. Plans, they fuck you. Because you're like, if you plan for something, you can procrastinate. Versus if you just wake up and in the heat of the moment, you're like, fuck it. I'm going to build a grill. Then you build a grill. You do it. Because you actually have you have the gusto. You have that little bit of stamina to do it already. That's why I just don't plan for shit. Or I have to plan like a week in advance. Like there's a thing for me where if you would like me to do something, you have to tell me about it a week in advance. Otherwise, it's not happening.
Just a comment on that grill thing. As a person who built a grill, I would highly recommend you just buy it built already.
No way.
It is.
It's
one of those things where
that's an absurd thing. Why would you buy a grill entirely built when you can build one with your own two hands like a real man?
No, man, it's so not worth it. I don't think I saved like any money doing it because of seeing prices on unless this grill was just like super better for some reason, and it was a lot of time to build that for. Dang, it was too much. It's too fucking much.
It's just like how Will in our Discord was saying he was building his kid a swing set.
Dude, I hate that stuff.
Buy that shit already built. Like, why are you guys building shit?
It's so rough, man. I hate, like, my wife and I were actually talking about that because we were sitting outside on Christmas Day and we kept hearing someone like with a hammer just like douche 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 douche. We're like, what the hell is that noise? Like, what are they doing right now? And then we thought about it and we're like, they're probably building their kids like Christmas present or some shit. And I'm like, that sucks. Like, if you don't get to have that like pre-built or you don't build it beforehand and you have to waste your whole Christmas day just doing all that kind of stuff.
Dude, but okay, here's the other side of that coin, though, is that there's some family out there that believes they need to teach their child to be self-reliant. So they're like, Christmas is a time for gifts. Like, it's a magical time, you're gonna get a gift. And you get a swing set, and you're like, oh, that's awesome. And then your parents are like, fucking build it, you dumb little bitch. And they just leave you alone with, like, power tools. You're like, I'm 5 years old. I can't even pick up this piece of wood.
Yep. And that was Vaughn's childhood.
Dude, and then that person grows up to be fucking Henry Cavill building PCs and looking dope as shit. God, if there was a Man Crush Monday of all things, I would let that man do nasty things to me.
So anyway, housekeeping.
Yeah, a little bit of housekeeping. Of course, we have our indie developer interview going up this Wednesday. This is with, I'm going to butcher these names. I'm just letting you know if you're listening to this episode, please just have a better name. This is Jens Bar. and Ines of Off the Beaten Track, the developers of an upcoming adventure game called The Cost of Recovery. Josh, do you remember this interview?
I do.
What can you tell me about The Cost of Recovery?
Yeah, so The Cost of Recovery is an interesting game where it's a take on different perspectives of traumatic events. So it's a story about an individual who goes through a very traumatic event where I believe they're not able to walk anymore, or something happens to them, and it's like the relationship between like what seems to be the mother, father, son, and possibly another person, I'm not sure who, but you get to play as all of these different characters and see that event from their perspectives. It's a giant story, so it'll go like you'll be one person and then halfway through it'll switch to someone else, whatever makes the story work, the best. With that, it's not something where you can like switch out in between, but it plays into a story of just trying to give you those different perspectives and putting yourself in other shoes, right, in the same situation, and what that might look like from each person.
That's really cool. I like that a lot. The idea of seeing the exact same event from different people's perspectives. That's so cool.
Yeah,
okay.
So it's something that I am actually pretty excited for when it does come out. But I don't recall. I believe it's a ways away. We'll see.
Okay, all right. Well, the one thing you can look forward to is the indie developer interview that I will try my hardest to get up the day of, because I'm so fucking bad at this, okay? Especially this week. So I was on a good track. I was putting up episodes on the day of. Maybe I'd spell their name wrong. Maybe I wouldn't. Like, it was an accident. But then last week, I was like just coasting along. It's Christmas. It was a surprisingly busy week for being Christmas. Like, I had to wrap presents. Oh my God, wanted to fucking kill myself the day of Christmas because I couldn't fall asleep. I couldn't fall asleep the night before, so I got 3 fucking hours of sleep. And then I went into Christmas, and I had to work on Christmas. Ooh. So I had to go to fucking work. So I got up early. I went to my wife's family's house, my in-laws' house, and they gave me a bunch of awesome presents, which I'm very glad about. They let me out of them. It's awesome. And then afterwards, I had to go to work. And I was like, dude, oh my God. I just couldn't handle it. I had to get an energy drink. It was like, it fucking sucked. And then, like, between not being able to fall asleep and wrapping the presents, I totally forgot to upload the episode. So there you go. That's the actual thing I was trying to tell you, is that I uploaded the episode a day late, basically 2 days late, because I uploaded it on Saturday night at like 9 o'clock. Which I didn't upload it at the wrong time for patrons, which means the Wombat Emperor of Australia will not kill me.
He wasn't mad. Yeah, I was gonna say.
He's like, all those plebes, they didn't get theirs, but we got ours, so it's okay.
Yeah, normally, he is quick to yell at us. So
I like how it only happened once. It's like literally only happened once, and it wasn't even quick. It only needs
to happen once.
It was like the night of that day. He went the entire day, and he didn't say shit. And then the night, he was like, "By the way, where's the episode at?" And I was like, "Oh fuck!" Like,
it's the night because that's like different time zones, right?
That's actually a good point. I do also forget about him having a different time zone. It's the same reason he can't watch you stream.
Yeah.
Is because he's in a different time zone.
Yeah, the last time I was doing it, he was like, "Oh, are you gonna be done streaming soon?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, it's like almost 2 a.m." He's like, "Who cares? You don't need to sleep." I was like, "Oh Jesus."
That's awesome. More housekeeping, of course. Check out the IndiePod store for our t-shirts and stickers, soon to be more merch. Then we have the YouTube that I would recommend everyone subscribe to. It's just IndiePod over on YouTube. You can watch these video episodes. You can... There's something else I was going to say. Oh, yeah. Soon I will be putting up a Unto the End review, but here's the thing. I am several pages into the script for that review. Like, it's remarkably longer than I thought it would be, because I'm, I guess, kind of going into a diatribe about how context matters in storylines and how it does not have any. And yeah, it became more of a persuasive argument than I expected it to be.
Geez.
So yeah, it's
writing
probably
his
going to be a longer
dissertation
review.
over here.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of something I look forward to doing now, is that like hopefully I'll have a little bit more time and I want to take reviews for indie games a little bit more seriously and actually kind of dive into them as being more of an art form, plus like an kind of weigh it on both sides of it, like one side being an art form and the other side actually being a video game, because I feel like some reviewers do take it a little bit too seriously when they're like, it's an art form, and then everybody's like, yeah, but I don't like the game, like it's cool. It's kind of like how Grease is that like you don't know where it sits on the scale between art and a video game. That's the kind of thing. So I'm excited to actually kind of like look at indie games like that. So expect more video content, or at least I really want to make more. So head over to IndiePod. You can at the very least watch these episodes over on YouTube. We don't have a custom URL because we're not cool enough to have one. So just go to YouTube, type in IndiePod, and you can watch the episodes. See my dumb face and his just so kissable faces. Of course, please leave us reviews on all different sites, whether that be iTunes, YouTube, I don't fucking know, wherever you can do that. And lastly, thank you so much to our amazing Patreons. We've got Will C, Mixomatosis, a.k.a. Mix, Zach Durham, Chase Hopkins, Philip Renshaw, the Wombat Emperor of Australia, Chris Penwell, Josh Nichols, and Sam Fillion from Canada. Do you ever think that people feel left out because I don't say something?
Because you don't, you don't say where they're from. Yeah, I thought about that. I was like, we're really singling out these two people.
If people would like to supply me with where they're from or weird shit that they would like
about them
listed. Yeah, like I could start to say like, oh, we'll see. I don't know, the Ryuk Master, since he made that joke on our fucking on that stream, and I love how he's like, I'm sorry for that, by the way. It was funny. It was me, but it was funny.
No, man, we're gonna spend minutes just going through all these names because you're giving them all these weird titles.
Weird fucking names, yeah, absolutely. But this is our Indie Game of the Year episode. Like I said, we kind of threw this together. So, Josh, you do to give this to prove the importance of context. Josh, you actually have some rules that you kind of placed upon yourself, not necessarily on me, but I kind of like inadvertently actually fell in your rules. So kind of works, kind of doesn't. So tell us the rules about how you at least structured your list.
Yeah, so the main thing that I thought about for this is, one, they have to be indie games. I think that's kind of a given. Two, and indie defined by us in the nature of like, you know, smaller team. It doesn't have to be indie publisher, but it has to be smaller development team, which is generally the way we've gone, but we can go on a whole episode as we did
nebulous.
Once before. Yeah. It has to have come out in this year, and what that means is it could still be in early access, or, you know, kind of like a beta phase.
Well, I do have to ask you then, so is it possible for something to receive like your kind of indie game of the year multiple years in a row? Like if you do it for early access, does that mean next year if it comes out and it's 1.0 and you love it, can it get your game of the year again?
Probably not. I think it could, but it probably won't because of the way, like, granted, this is very subjective, obviously. All of these are. But I think the reason why this is the most subjective is because I'm generally giving it to this because I played it during this year. It came out during this year, and it was one that stuck with me, right? So a lot of the times, it's quite often that, and just to go into this, Risk of Rain 2 is not on this list for myself. Now, Risk of Rain 2 is an awesome game. I love it. Its 1.0 actually came out in this year, but last year is when I devoted so much time to it, and it was in early access, and like given these rules, last year Risk of Rain 2 would have been on that list.
Okay, so you basically using its early access release as its actual release date?
As a
kind of a thing? Like that would be the year that you consider it coming out in?
Yeah.
Okay,
so
cool.
Yeah, so that's the way I'm using it for this. Granted, you know, some people might say you can't do that, but you know what? I want to talk about these games that came out this year.
Hell,
so
it's your fucking
my list,
dude. You
it's
can
my
do
list.
You
Top
want.
5 games. So those are like the main rules. Is indie came out in this year, and that it was that there is no stipulation on it being early access versus full 1.0 release.
Okay, do you happen to have like any honorable mentions in your list as well, or just your top 5?
Oh, I deleted all the. So the way that I did this was I literally went through and grabbed just a ton of the games that I played that I looked at for this year and was like, that was great, that was great, that was great, that was great. And I had like a list of like 20 plus games and then had to go through that list again and be like, okay, I could cut that one. I can't cut that one. I can't cut. And I did that like a couple of times until I got to these 5. But there's still a bunch that, got axed off the list that could be there, but while I was doing it, I wasn't like saving any of it, so it's just out the window. But I guess like for honorable mentions, I'll probably put some shout out to things like Call of the Sea, which I talked about on a recent episode, which I think is a really good indie game. Carry On did not make the list, but was really good. Yeah.
It is kind of crazy to like contrast. Like if you probably listened to one of our earlier episodes this year where you and I were so excited for Carry On, and then to get to the end of the year where you're just like, yeah, it didn't make my game of the year and I didn't even play it yet.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of like it's probably a weird contrast.
And that's the thing with these honorable mentions. Like it's hard because there's a lot of games that I played in 2020. There's a lot of games that I really enjoyed in 2020. Carry On was a great game, but it's just not one of the 5 that I think are my favorites.
Don't have to defend yourself to me, Big Josh, buddy.
Oh, thank you. Another honorable mention would definitely be Signs of the Sojourner, which is that conversational card game. Don't make any fucking faces. Yeah, I think that's. And Worlds of Horror. Worlds of Horror is one of the games where I think that it would be probably on my list, but there's certain things in its current like alpha phase right now that warrant me to not put it on this list just because it like doesn't have a continue function right now, and it has a couple of other things that are just missing that I feel like would make this a bit more complete and would make it a lot more of a like, oh, it's got to be on this list. But that being said, it's still a great game. I think people should check it out. It's really cool. Probably not for everyone, but for the niche people that it applies to and like appeals to, you should check it out. Okay. Yeah, that's basically my honorable list. I don't know if you want to go for yours first before we dive into any of the top 5.
Yeah, because I do have a couple honorable mentions. Of course, the thing I want to get out of the way real quick is just because this is an episode about our like indie game of the year, our top 5 indie games for 2020, doesn't mean we're skipping out on listener questions. We will still have them at the end of the show after we're done because we gotta have your amazing listener questions that often really just hit us where it hurts. I very much appreciate the pain. It's like sadism or sadomasochism, whatever actual word attributes to me liking my balls stepped on. So yes, of course.
Okay. So about that list.
We will be answering your questions at the end of the show, but we will not be talking about the indie game news this week, but we will have a larger wrap up next week, so don't you worry. And the games we are playing are not going to be included this week, which also means there's going to be a lot next week, at least next week, Josh's side.
Next week's going to be a long episode, and I apologize, but it's going to be a lot of my faults.
Yeah, I mean, sadly, like, the thing that I thought about us talking about the games that we played this week, but I was like, I have played Ashen a tiny bit. Otherwise, I have had almost no time to play games this week. Like
Unexplored 2 Beta, Super Meat Boy Forever, Omori, I think is how it's called. Dungeon Defenders.
You're playing Omori?
Yeah.
Is it cool?
I'm only about an hour in, but I'm really enjoying it.
That's like the horror RPG, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it looks cool. I saw that it went live. Steam notified me because I have them on my wish list.
Yeah, so I'll let y'all know about all those games and possibly more next week.
All right. So to prove that I did not adhere to Josh's list of rules, I literally the first game in my honorable mention didn't even actually come out in 2020. But it's in early access, and that's also why it's in my honorable mentions. It's just like, I played this game this year, and I think it's cool. So I have GTFO. It's early access by 10 Chambers. The reason I have it in honorable mention, like I said, one, it came out in like the early December 2019. But I didn't even have the capability of playing it then. Considering I hadn't built my PC yet, and now that I have built it, I've played it, and it is fun. I really liked it, but I didn't play enough to actually one, it came out in 2019, so I wasn't going to include it on my list, but two, I haven't played enough to really develop like a concrete opinion on it. Whether I believe it is really good, really bad, or anything in between. So I just have it on as an honorable mention because I think it's a lot of fun. And I would recommend people checking it out, especially if you have friends that you play games with, because it is a lot of fun. But it requires you to play with other people, basically. It's just too hard. If you don't have, at the very least, 3 people, including yourself, to play this game, you pretty much can't get through these scenarios. So, absolutely, if you want to purchase that game, make sure you have enough people to play with you.
Right.
My second honorable mention would be, and these aren't actually in any specific order, I just kind of like, they're the ones I thought of. Technically, I guess it would be like ascending order. But the second one I have on here is Kunai by Turtle Blaze. Josh and I actually played this when it originally came out. We both did, and I think we were both kind of like relatively lukewarm on it. Didn't exactly know whether or not we like really enjoyed it, really hated it. It was just kind of like a meh thing. It would probably be like considered like a 6 or a 7 at that point if like we were putting a number on it, kind of a thing. But I just didn't play enough, and I can't remember my like full ideas on it, but I do very much enjoy the art style, and I do remember enjoying the traversal with the kunai knives, and I do just think it's overall really, really cool. And of course, there's naturally the disclaimer that there's only 2 of us, so we can't play every game, let alone every indie game, because there's literally thousands that come out every week. So of course, there are going to be some that slip through the cracks. If you would like us to play an indie game, make sure that you message us at IndiePod, and we will try to do so. I very much think we're pretty amenable to actually checking out the games that people recommend, especially Josh. Josh plays a shitload of games that people recommend. Me, I'm like, nah.
Yeah, I've had a couple people reach out before to try games, even if it's just you know, like an alpha or a demo of a game. I've had a couple of people who have reached out, and there have been some pretty cool ones. There was like a shmup game that God, I can't remember his name on Twitter. It's like Retro Drew. Oh yeah, no, I think it is Retro Cemetery Drew. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, he reached out and he had a pretty cool shmup game that was very like Ikaruga, I think is the way you call it. I don't remember exactly, but it's basically like a shmup where you have to collect, like there's 2 different colors that are coming at you and you have to change between them. It was like, he describes it as an easier version of it, but it was pretty cool. Like, I mean, if there's things that you want me to try out and give feedback or to talk about on the podcast, like, you know, let us know. Yeah, absolutely. And the last game I have on here is once again proving that I did not adhere to Josh's list. I mean, honestly, like, hold up, because adhering to my list, like, I made a rule and broke it in the same list. Like, you'll see what I mean, and I'll talk about it. So my list means basically that I don't give a shit about time, is what I'm saying. Is because early access or 1.0 means nothing. It means, did I play it in this and did it come out? And I'm using this to my advantage by saying it came out because it 1.0'd, or it came out because it's an early. I'm bending the rules. Yeah, I'm bending the rules, so it's like at some point it launched, whether that be an early access or a 1.0. So I'm using it to fit into my category. So basically, time means nothing. You're like, my rules mean nothing. That's what I'm saying. So the last game on my honorable mention is actually Risk of Rain 2 by Hapu Games. Mostly just because I didn't play enough. I've only unlocked a couple of the characters. I very much enjoyed the Huntress character. I thought she was really, really cool. But there are, of course, like fucking 20 or something. There's a shitload of them. And I haven't gotten very far in it, so I just feel like I haven't played enough. But I very much enjoyed the loop, and I think it definitely deserved to be in like my honorable mentions for this year, because it is a very good game, however much I didn't play. And of course, if I didn't mention a game that I possibly have played this year, it doesn't necessarily mean that it didn't like deserve to be on this list or anything. It just means that I fucking suck at remembering what games I played this year. That is 100% true. Keep that in mind. If there wasn't a catalog in Steam of what I had played, I wouldn't know. I don't remember anything. I had to look through it this year, and I was like, that was this year? Like, would have never thought about a lot of these games.
Yeah, I absolutely should have gone through the fucking Steam thing to see what I played, because that would have made this a lot easier. But I feel like the games I played, like these are the ones that really came to prove that I believe they are the ones that had the most impact on me. And this is of course a transition to our top 5, is that they were the first ones I thought of. Like they made a lasting impact on the way I thought about indie games in 2020. So I was like, oh, okay. Like, I remembered that game, and I remembered very much enjoying it. So it obviously made more of a lasting impact than, let's say, like, I don't fucking know. Like, I can't even remember. That's the point.
That's the point. Can't remember it. All right, let's start with our top 5. Do you want to do back and forth?
Sure. What is your number 5?
Okay, so my number 5 is Spelunky 2.
So low.
So low.
Ooh.
I mean,
starting off so high and so low. I'm actually kind of excited to find out what the rest of your list is.
Yeah, I don't think you'll be surprised at all.
It's a lot of card games, isn't
it's a lot. There's a couple. What I am looking at, though, in this list is literally every single one of my games is a roguelike. It's my genre of choice.
That's not surprising.
It's not surprising at all. So Spelunky 2 is amazing, and I've talked about this a couple times, but Spelunky 2 is just such a good game, man. It's got the rogue-like style that just a lot of other games don't get as well. Like it's challenging, and it is frustrating, and it is unforgiving, but it is all about finding secrets. It's all about finding out more about the world, understanding the bits and pieces, the intricacies that go into this environment. It's just you progressing because you're getting better, because you're getting more knowledgeable, and it's so fun. Plus, I just started playing multiplayer with it, like online co-op, and man, does that make it even crazier. Like, it's so fun because I bought it for a buddy of mine because it was his birthday, and I was like, hey, play this game with me. It's really good. And so he doesn't know anything that's happening in the game, and I'm trying to teach him.
You're just gonna end it there, like he just
doesn't
know
anything. dumb as rocks. No, he's a really smart dude, and he's really good at games, but not Spelunky. He doesn't know anything about this game, and I'm trying to teach him. But Spelunky 2 is so chaotic, and you'd think that you're like, oh, I have 2 people, so it'll be easier, right? No. Anything you do in this game, if you like crack the whip, that's your main weapon in this game. You crack the whip and you're next to your buddy, your little partner, you'll smack him and he'll go flying and hit a bunch of things and just kill himself. And it is so damn chaotic when he's just trying to learn things and trying to figure out and is pressing buttons. And it's almost like putting an extra difficulty level on the game of me trying to deal with him and the enemies around me. And it's honestly,
he's an environmental hazard. You're just like, ah!
It's such a blast, though. There was a moment where we both had 2 turkeys and we were riding, and we both had 2 shotguns, and I was just like, we're like this awesome turkey biker gang. It looks ridiculous, but it was so fun, man. And I have a lot of really fond memories with this game, even though it just came out recently. But like, it's a good one.
Okay, all right. Spelunky is like, it's totally not a game for me. I feel so bad because
it's not for everyone, man, and it's honestly like a lot of it, it's not even for me. Like I know it's way too hard for me. Like, I've gotten pretty far in it. Like, I'm farther than most people, I would say, who would try to pick this up, but like, I don't think I'll ever beat this game.
But I totally understand the appeal, though. I totally get why people love the like Spelunky and Spelunky 2 so much. All about like the sense of discovery. I totally get it. Like, it seems really cool, and the like random nature of it, but it's just never going to be a game for me. And it's not even because I'm just bad at video games. It's also just because it's like, I don't like roguelikes that much. I don't having a
Can't
feeling
wait for you
of
to
like,
hear my list.
I know. Jesus. It's like dominated with roguelikes.
It's going to branch off. You're going to keep doing indie stuff, and I'm just going to do a whole podcast on roguelikes.
I bet you could. I 100% guarantee you, by the time this episode comes out for patrons, somebody, and I'm assuming it's going to be probably, I would like to say Will, is going to say, or Sam, is going to say that they would listen to your roguelike podcast. They would. So, my number 5 is If Found by Dreamfield. It is an adventure game, kind of a visual novel, more of. It's actually a visual novel. I don't know why I said adventure game. I mean, in a sense. It's a visual novel that came out in May of 2020. This game, I still haven't actually finished it, even though it's not that long, but it made a real lasting impact on me because I loved the story it told and how it did so. I loved the art. It's all this like really interesting kind of hand-drawn, almost doodle-esque art with the added layer of like these weird animations that kind of remind me of like early like 90s computer effects, similar to like what Hyperspace Outlaw did, I believe is what it's called. So it has a mix of that in its art style, and I really, really like that. And the entire idea of like the erasing mechanic of the game I find kind of cool, where you would the entire way that you kind of like the way that you go through and actually impact the world or find out the story is by erasing sections of these pages or coloring them in with an eraser or uncovering things. And it's really interesting. And I love the way that this gameplay, like the gameplay loop kind of leads into how like both the story itself and how the story is told about kind of like erasing who you thought you were and who people believe you should be and creating who you want to be. I very much enjoy that. I like the story a lot about like a kid kind of having trouble with school and coming home and learning so much about themselves, like coming of ages stories. Like I think they hit everybody in a very interesting way. So I would 100% recommend If Found. The one big, like, I guess, quote unquote, issue I would have with it, which is actually not a knock on the game at all. It's just something that I personally am like, oh, okay, I see so much merit in this game. The one thing that detracts me from it is that it doesn't necessarily have gameplay, which of course is a visual novel. Like, that's kind of what they do. So that's why I'm saying it's not a knock. It's not a critique or anything. It's just like, oh, cool. It's just the one thing that makes it a little bit further down on my list is that it doesn't necessarily have any real gameplay other than the erasing, which I love. This is once again where like the idea of art and video games, like one is a game, one is art, and how do they come together? This is one of those games that heavily leans toward art and storytelling, and I think it's very good. So that hit my number 5 spot. Of course, that's If Found by Dreamfeel. Very much enjoyed it. Love the story, love the art, but the one thing that held it back for me was its lack of gameplay. So, Josh,
it's one of those, it's one of those, the genre being good jelly, not my jam.
Oh, yeah, dude. Hell yeah.
I keep thinking about that. I think about that every day now.
It's just so good. It's like, so this should be a motto for everybody.
I don't know how other people aren't saying this.
It's just good jelly, not my jam.
Yeah, this should be like for everything. Like I want to use this all the time.
Dude.
So smart.
So smart.
Big brain.
Big
brains.
Genius. Galaxy brain.
Galaxy brain, some might say. Anyway, so my number 4, we go to Ring of Pain.
Really? Ring of Pain is your number 4.
Number 4. Ring of Pain.
How much you want to bet? Here, I'm gonna see if I can guess something.
Okay.
I want to guess. I believe Hades is on your list, but I do not think it is number 1.
It is not.
I think a card game is number 1.
It is not.
And I think no way. I was gonna say I think it's Monster Train. I think Monster Train is somewhere on your list though.
You're getting good here. All right. But you don't know what number 1 is what I'm saying.
I don't know what number 1 is, man.
All right.
Roguelikes.
Think of it. Okay, You'll get there. It's if you check out my my history of what I've been playing a lot, you'll know what my number 1 is. Anyway, so number 4 though is Ring of Pain. Now Ring of Pain is an amazing game. I have this lower on the list because honestly the replayability isn't there for me. It's obviously there.
Really?
Yeah,
that's
so
kind of interesting.
It's there, but it's one that I haven't been as compelled to keep going because a lot of parts of the game will become stale. And what I mean by that is there are story bits in this game and little things that you can do that amount to the story, but as you keep doing them, they're always the same. And those aspects, the character like Owl, the main like bird character that you see, he'll say kind of the same thing. You don't really get anything different as you keep beating them. Like you get a harder version, but once you get to the hardest version, that's kind of it. You're not really unlocking too many things. There's a good amount of trying to like unlock getting certain achievements, so you get different items that you'll find in it. But honestly, like I think it's still an amazing game because it's so damn good. Like the art style to it is amazing. The soundtrack to it is creepy as hell. And honestly, just playing it even on the easier mode and going through and just trying to achievement hunt is actually a lot of fun for me. So it needs to be on this list. I just don't think it's tippity top, but it's honestly a great game. What are you smiling about over there? You trying to find out what game? You're trying to find? Yeah, that's what I think.
I know your list. I think Hades is number 3, Monster Train is number 2, and I think Gunfire Reborn is number 1.
Could be, maybe. We'll see.
See, when you said it was a game you played a lot, I was just like, what the fuck games came out this year, dude?
Oh, yeah, I know.
And then you said, yeah.
Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see if you're right.
I'm excited to find out. But my number 4, well, I guess before I get to my number 4, I have to say, Ring of Pain, I think has such a cool art style. Even though it's like super creepy, I really enjoy it.
That's the best part. It's so creep. And honestly, I didn't even mention it, but like hands down, one of the best parts is the fact that they created that the Twitch integration with it, because letting people draw the characters
and it's a penis
and it becomes
like, I don't know what this does,
and it becomes dude, that happened to me so many times because I didn't know them by name, so I kept looking at it and I was like, what the hell is this? It's just a penis. What's coming to hit me? Like, so funny to me. Like, there's a lot of great Twitch moments from that, and like I love the community building that it adds to that. Obviously, it doesn't have to be a penis, but you know, a lot of times.
Obviously, it doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be.
But it does, though.
But it does. At least once. You know, you got to get a penis out of the way first, like, and then you're like, all right, let's get to some real drawings here, or just more penises.
Absolutely, and I mean, dude, you got to put in there that it's got good slime design. Like, I don't know why you didn't mention that.
Yeah, that's not my jam.
Just saying. So you're like, I can't even say it's good jelly. It's just
not my jam.
So for me, number 4 is once again a visual novel. Actually, this is Necrobarista by Route 59. I absolutely adore and love the art style and the characters. I think they're so awesome and so weird, and I want to say eclectic. They're just so a mixture of so many things that I enjoy so much about them, but also like it constantly makes me want to learn more about them, but at the same time I didn't necessarily ever get the payoff that I wanted with these characters. I mean, I haven't beaten it, so it's very possible that like I just didn't get far enough in the game to actually get the emotional payoff that I would really like. But the entire concept of there being a kind of like a coffee shop that exists on kind of the border between life and death, where people like spirits can go and kind of work through their emotions before they die, is so awesome. The characters are just so interesting, and I liked them a lot. So I had to put Necrobarista on here, but it's basically for the same reason, if found, somewhat just lacking gameplay. Really, like, kind of put it lower on my list, but I enjoyed it so much that I had to include it. Mostly just because of the characters. I love their dynamic. I thought they were really awesome. The way they worked together was really, really cool. And I guess kind of the relationships between them was probably my favorite. I do have to say, you held still for quite a while, and I thought you either froze. I thought you froze. Because you were literally just like...
I was just really into it. I was like,
and then I saw you blink, and I was like, whoa.
I'll just keep doing this from now on.
Okay.
The audio listener is like, what the fuck?
Necrobarista by Route 59. Love the characters and the music. Music's really good. It's like it's a bop right there. But overall lacking gameplay, so that put it a little bit further down on my list. But I liked the game so much and the characters so much.
You seem to not want gameplay. You're given all these top games.
These next 3 games are just gameplay basically.
Oh, all right.
Well,
all right,
actually,
we'll
that's not true. The next game is mostly gameplay. Then there's an intertwining of gameplay and narrative, and then my number 1 is a great mashup of both. So there you go.
Sounds like one of those might be Hades. So I'll jump to mine, which is number 3. So Vaughn, you were so close.
Did you put Hades as number 2?
But Hades is number 2.
Damn it!
Hades is number 2. So number 3, I know my whole list is getting just fucking spoiled. Number 3 is Monster Train.
It's predictable.
I know. Well, I mean, if people know me, they know me. You know, I don't fucking know you, clearly. Monster Train is my 3rd, and I think Monster Train, going into why it's above Ring of Pain, because I think that both of these games are very, very close to me, but like, Monster Train has things like Slay the Spire, where they have these ascensions. So you beat the game, right? And when you beat the game, you're like, oh, I did it. I beat the game. But then it says, hold on. Let's make the game harder. And let's do little things that kind of screw you over or make the enemy stronger. And let's layer that into levels so that it goes higher and higher. So each time that you beat it, you then have to beat it again, but at a very small variation that makes it a little bit harder. And it keeps doing that and doing that and doing it, which constantly pushes you to say like, oh, I need to change my idea behind this, my whole ideal behind what is strong and what's not. Because as you start going, you'll get things like, for Monster Train specifically, where the cart, the area that you can place your monsters, they'll start taking away room. So you don't have as much room as you did when you were on the level 1 version, or they'll start making things cost more. They'll start making things more damaging, like little bits and pieces where because of that, you can't have the same strategy, and it makes it so you have to adapt, not only because you're playing this RNG game with all of the cards or the different monsters that you might get, but you also have to play the game, meaning you have to play a challenge of what is really the best based on what level of difficulty you're on. And plus, like, with Monster Train, it's hard to beat, or with Ring of Pain, it's hard to beat Monster Train just because there's so much variability in the fact that you have these different classes, these different characters, so many different monsters. Like, I think it's just, there's a bit more in this game in its complexity, which just makes it better for me, personally. But I will say I do like the animation much better in Ring of Pain. But Monster Train is super cute and super awesome. For anyone who likes Slay the Spire, if you don't have Monster Train, you're a fool.
You're a fool.
It's just, that is like the next in the progression of people who play Slay the Spire. Once you're done, you play Monster Train.
I mean, I love Monster Train's art style. I think their creature designs are so cool. Like I mean, this is coming from somebody who hasn't actually played the game, so I know very little about it. But the small bits I have, it reminds me so much of like the awesome creature designs that I remember from like cartoons as I was a kid that were like card games. So like Yu-Gi-Oh! And fucking Duel Masters, which is hilarious to bring up because nobody fucking knows what that is.
What are you talking about? Errol knows what that is.
Yeah, of course Errol knows what that is. He's got a fucking JRPG like a Japanese podcast. That's what he should know what Duel Masters is. But I really adore the creature design in Monster Train. Sadly, it is just never going to be a game that I will play. It's like an interesting mix between like strategy and random like shit you have to deal with that I'm just not into.
So
I like
good.
predictability, dude.
No, it's so good. Just give it a chance. Just give it a chance. It'll be fine.
I mean, shit, dude. If I can make like some slime decks or something, you know what I mean? Just like get a bunch of slime, that'd be pretty cool.
There's
cool.
like there's wax people. They're like candles who are like melty. They're kind of like slimes.
It's not exactly slime. So
Close.
For my number, you're like close, but no cigar. For my number 3, it has to be The Pathless by Giant Squid. I've talked about this in the past couple episodes where I initially was actually kind of lukewarm on the game.
Yeah, I'm surprised this got all the way to 3.
Yeah, well, I enjoy. See, here's where gameplay comes in. See, I was initially lukewarm on the game because I thought that it actually kind of like overall lacked interesting gameplay. I didn't enjoy that it was all about just like going and collecting these like totems to then go and light up towers, kind of a thing. Like, I didn't understand why that was interesting, and I didn't think the traversal had enough to actually keep me interested in the game. But after fighting a couple bosses, I actually began to enjoy it, even though the bosses became... See, here's my biggest issue with the game, and the reason why it's actually number 3, is that I love the art style. I think the art style looks absolutely amazing. I love the music. I love the atmosphere that exists within the Pathless, but its gameplay just gets really repetitive. The entire idea of like sliding around all the time, it is cool. Admittedly, like, I do think it's cool to see. It's kind of like getting a higher and higher combo in like a fighting game, which I've never done because I fucking suck at video games. Yeah. But it's kind of like seeing how long I can go, just consistently running with a small stamina bar, having just like nailed all of these shots, flying through the air. It really, it has an interesting flair to it that I think is really, really awesome. But that being literally like the only gameplay mechanic that exists in the game gets really repetitive, where everything is just based on movement and like lock-on targeting. Like, if it required me to actually shoot the bow instead of it just locking onto something and me shooting an arrow, like clicking a button to shoot an arrow, I think I would actually enjoy it a little bit more, because then it would weigh in that like skill a little bit. But I could see how hard that would actually be, considering like you're constantly moving at like a breakneck pace through these arenas. So I get why they do what they do. But I do believe it gets a little bit repetitive, especially like the only mechanic that exists in it is shooting. Like shooting these eyeball looking things with arrows. Right. That's it. The puzzles themselves, though, they do redeem that a little bit for me, where it's like it was kind of like a refreshing change of pace when I'd come across a puzzle and have to figure it out, like figure out how to shoot my bow into an eyeball thing, because there's a little bit of a thing I have to get through. I have to move this so that I can shoot my bow into this eyeball, and then this eyeball, and then this eyeball. So there's that. But I very much enjoyed it. I love the art style. I think the story of the God Slayer is really, really cool. I still have yet to finish it, if you haven't noticed. Literally only one game on my list I've actually finished.
Hot damn.
So, yeah.
Let's get them. All the internet trolls gonna start raging.
See, here's the thing is, like, I enjoy them, but I'm also not saying that they're the best games that came out this year.
I mean, it would be different if we were an actual, like, I don't know, anyone who mattered. Like,
true.
Like, I don't know. True. Like, Indie Pod's Game of the Year isn't gonna make anything.
Also
and we're also
like,
it's our top 5
my personal
list. Right.
Yeah, it's like it's my personal top 5. This is not Indie Pod's Game of the Year. Right. Like, it's, if we had to choose one, I do not think it would actually be possible for us to come to.
It would be so hard, because our interests are so
they're just
very
so different.
Yeah, it would be really hard, and I think the only thing we could probably agree on is like Hades.
Yeah. I think there are very few games that we could actually agree as like Game of the Year material. Right. Like, it would be such a discussion that we would have to go through. That's why I think we need a third. We need a third person to be like
maybe that's the referee here. We need some middle ground person. Maybe that's what, to spoil Chris's question, 2021
big change in 2021.
Yeah, we'll look for a third.
That would be cool. But yeah, the Pathless number 3, haven't finished it, but I very much enjoy it at the time of this recording. I think it's really cool. I would like to go back to finish it, but like I said, honestly, this week I haven't played like anything. Last week I really didn't get to play a whole lot. Like, life is just a little bit too busy right now, but I'm hoping it slows down a bit.
Life never slows down. You just deal with it better.
I think it's just me needing to like figure out my work schedule. Soon I'll be able to actually change my work schedule to make it a little bit better. But currently my work schedule, like I get off at a weird time and it's like hard to get on and play games or have literally any motivation to do anything other than just watch fucking episodes of Bones.
This
So
fucking guy.
yeah, it's hard to do. But you're number 2. What is he?
What is it? It's Hades, baby. It's Hades. Honestly, I struggle with this one because like I liked Hades a lot. I think that people blew their fucking lids because there was so much horny energy in this game.
Dude, seriously.
Which, like,
this
honestly,
is like a thirst pot.
I don't really care about too much. Like, that wasn't my jam kind of a thing for this game.
Come on,
I was
dude.
just like, real good story, real good mechanics. It's a roguelike or roguelite. Seems like my jam.
You just get to the end, you're like, it's real good.
It's real good. Real good. I mean, I loved the way that they, like, honestly, my favorite part about this, and they're not the first people to do this. Like, people were going crazy about this idea of dying and being excited to die kind of a thing in the game because you progress the story even when you die. Like, this isn't the first game that's done it, which was why I was kind of like a little butthurt and why I'm always like like I'm just being one of those like, you know, anti-poser, like, we already did this before type things. So I always feel like I need to not rank it so high because everyone else is, which is a dumb reason. Like,
Yeah.
I admit it's a dumb
like,
reason, but
I get your idea of it is like they're ranking it so high because they're like, they're an unprecedented
like, this is
gameplay mechanic,
never-
and you're just like, it's existed before, motherfucker.
yeah, it's like, this has never been done before. It's like, yes, it has. They did it real well because Supergiant does things real well, but like, it's not the first. But that being said, like, it's still an amazing game. It still has an awesome storyline that makes sense of why you keep replaying, which I think is kind of rare. A lot of these roguelikes will just say like, we started it again kind of a thing, and that's just how it goes. So I did enjoy that. I loved the mythology behind all of this. The actual gameplay to it is challenging but fair, which I love games like this. And I loved the idea with roguelites of trying to pair different combinations of like these boons and these creating these builds where you're like, okay, what resonates with me, whether it be a weapon, whether it be a type of boon, and then having the game force you through the collection of, you know, getting more dark soul essence, whatever the currency was called. I don't even remember.
Darkness,
dark soul energy, whatever. Close enough.
you got it.
Close enough, man. Words, what are they? But trying to put that into perspective of like, hey, use this weapon to get more of it, to like force you to try new things, which is great. Like, there's a lot of mechanics in here that are just, like I said, they're not the first to do these, but they really perfected them in a great way. Yeah, I don't know. We've talked so much about this. I don't think there's any point of harping on it even more, but Hades is number 2.
Speaking of harping on it, Hades is number 2 on my
Hades
list
is number
as well.
2, motherfucker!
So, honestly, I think you did a really good job of explaining why Hades is so good. Obviously, the random nature of it is a little bit different for the two of us.
Yep.
My big things are, I absolutely love the narrative and the characters, and I really, really adore the way I really do enjoy the whole narrative aspect of it, the death and everything. But the thing I enjoy the most is actually the accessibility feature of including the God mode, which does not actually, like, it's not a difficulty setting. It doesn't just make everything easier for you. Instead, you just go through and progressively, as you die, get stronger and stronger, and essentially, like, it just makes things a little bit less hard for you, to where, like, you still die and you still are forced to understand the mechanics of this game, but
More forgiving.
you get to, yeah, it's much more forgiving for little dum-dums like myself.
Did you use the God mode?
I started in the end. I didn't for the longest time. I got all the way to Elysium and then just kept getting my dick punched in by the two bosses in Elysium, and I was like, dude, fuck.
They're
No.
they're tough to. I felt like they were a pretty weird like difficulty spike for people just starting to play it.
Especially because there's fucking 2 of them. What the shit is that about? Like,
just strafe. Constant
okay.
strafe.
It's easy to say when you're good at video games, bitch.
I wouldn't classify myself as good, but okay.
But I very much enjoyed Hades. I'm a big fan of the thirst trap, dude. I like it a lot.
That horny energy.
Like Zagreus, he's a cute boy. Fucking Achilles, he's a cute boy. Megara, ooh.
I know, Meg.
She's a hottie. Like, literally everyone in this fucking game is a hottie. Like, Cerberus. Like, I ain't into dogs, but what's that? No, that one isn't.
No. That's a weird one.
There's obviously, like, the other characters as well that it did so... Like, I love that it fleshed out these side characters so much. Like, Medusa or Dusa was just so interesting how it took this age-old, like, kind of villain character and actually made her much more of a loving and interesting character in Hades. Like, she's just a floating head that's, like, obviously in love with Zagreus. Like, she obviously has a fucking thing for him, but every time he tries to speak to her, she just, like, fucking skitters up the wall like a weirdo. Yeah.
Like, and I like it, too, because to your point, you know, the building the background or the characters, she freaks out for, like, 20 times, but the 21st time, she starts to actually talk to you. Like, you build that relationship where she stops being as, like, manic about everything.
Yeah, and characters change, which is so nice. There's, like, so much character development. Also, I never got to the fact that Achilles is actually, like, the reason he leaves is to go to Elysium to see that fucking character. I had no idea that was real. I just saw somebody do some fan art for it, and I was like, that's cool. Yeah. So there's just so much about that game that I do really, really love, but... And here's the nitpick thing. I hate the way it ducks fucking audio. It bothers the shit out of me. Okay, I fucking hate it. It's just so annoying. Like, once you realize them doing it, it's so annoying, especially when they take long, like, instances where conversations have a lull for a second and somebody who's supposed to be, like, waiting for some sort of response or something where they'll talk, and then you'll hear the audio go up and then immediately down and then up and down and up and down. I'm like, stop. Just stop. It's annoying. Really bothered me. Really bothered me. But it's like, I mean, I really love the game. Honestly, the game in my number 1 spot really is just there because I truly feel like it's kind of more my jam. That's really the only reason that it got number 1 over Hades.
Yeah,
and the fact that I'll never be able to beat Hades. It's just never going to happen.
It's a shame because you should see the ending because it's pretty good. Well, I guess there's a couple of endings because you have to beat it 10 times, but
dude,
it's good.
Fuck that. That's like so absurd. I'm like, I can't beat it once, and you're like, but you could maybe beat it 10.
Beat it 10 times, and then you'll get a good ending, kind of.
Okay, Josh, what is your number 1 pick?
Well, we already kind of spoiled it, but yes, my number 1 pick is Gunfire Reborn. I've talked about this a couple times. Yeah, you're the best.
Proud of myself.
I know, I'm so proud of you. Gunfire Reborn is great. It's like, I don't know, it is the Risk of Rain 2 of 2000 and, the Risk of Rain 2 of 2020 for me. It is a first-person shooter. Well, is it first-person? Yeah, it's first-person shooter. Where you are... And the story doesn't really make too much sense, but you're basically these characters. You're either a cat, a dog, or a bird. And each one of those characters has different abilities. They have specific, like the bird can do these actual... what am I having so much issue with? Actually, melee attacking characters. The dog can dual wield guns. The cat has these like orb mystical powers to like lock people and like use CC. And then there's a ton of guns.
They seem like a little bit more of like a unique gameplay experience between the 3 characters.
Yes, and then there's like a whole progression, like skill tree, that every time you play the game, you're unlocking this currency that you can put into building your character out to make them stronger for the next run. So there's progression in between each one. So it's usually like you're playing it and you're constantly getting better. It's very similar to like that Hades approach of, you know, you play a game, you die and you don't make it, but then you get to upgrade a few abilities, and the next time you're a little bit stronger. You understand the different weapons that are available because there's a ton of different guns. Each of the guns can have inscriptions on them, kind of like Borderlands style, where it's you don't know what you're going to get on that gun, and it might be something really good or it might be something whatever. But you're cycling through. You have different ways of upgrading them in that actual run, and you're able to play with up to 4 people, like you and 3 other friends. And it's so much fun, man. It's a really good time, and it's one of those things where, just like roguelikes, you play it and you start off where you're like, this is impossible. How do you beat this boss? Or how do you get, to X, Y, Z? And then by the end of it, where I'm at right now, I don't know how I ever had trouble with it. And it's like really crazy, but it's just such a fun time. I tried it out. So there's like 3 difficulties, and I always play on the hardest difficulty now. And I went down to achievement hunt a few things because you have to beat like a boss in 10 seconds. And I was like, all right, I'm going to try this. So I knocked it down to normal. My God, it is insane how there's only like 2 enemies in a room. And I'm like, normally this is like 50 people hitting me. Like, how did I ever play this on normal and think this was a hard time? But like, that being said, that was just a weird tangent. It's just so good, and the replayability is great. I think it's great if you have friends who just want to pick up a game and play. Like, it's not like a crazy, insane like first-person shooter where everything's super realistic. But I think it's a like very quirky, very fun. It has a bit of challenging elements to it with some of the different bosses and things like in the late game to it. Like, it's a good time.
All right. Well, Gunfire Reborn, the little bit that I played, I thought it was really fun. I'm just not good enough to
play with me. Damn it, play with me. I'll carry you. I will carry you.
Okay.
We'll play it, and I'll carry you.
You know what, dude? I might have some free time.
Yo,
people was wanting like let's plays and shit. Let's fucking do it.
Let's
do a Gunfire Reborn. Let's play.
I'm gonna teach you how to play Gunfire Reborn.
Okay. I want to play a different character.
You cannot.
It's just that was my one big thing is like I was just like, can I just stop playing this fucking character?
Yeah.
Why do I have to get to such a high level to unlock the others?
The progression system in it is kind of shitty, but once you get past that, it's like great. But yeah, it is weird that they're like, do you want to play the dog? How about getting to level 30? And you're like, Jesus. And then like, oh, we also have a bird character, level 40. And you're like, why do you keep doing this? But like now I'm level 125, I'm max level, and I'm like, any character they come out with next, who cares? Because I'm just going to have it. But like, that's another thing. They have a roadmap, and they have 2 extra characters. They're constantly adding new scrolls and new guns to this game. Like, it's a good game. Play the game.
Yeah. Gunfire Reborn, I thought it was really cool. I love the like kind of terracotta art style to it. Like everything looks really kind of old. I mean, this is obviously showing that I've only been in the first world. I've never gotten further than that because I don't know if it changes up, but I really like it. And I love that like you can see the difference between characters where everyone, and once again, only been in the first world, but everyone like they are all these like terracotta or these kind of like sculpture-esque creatures, and then when your character yourself and the bosses, it actually shows a difference in their character design where the boss looks so different that you're just like, okay, I understand the escalation of power here, where it's like I'm not fucking with I'm not messing with a terracotta warrior. I'm fucking with this gigantic behemoth that'll punch me once and kill me. Like, I get it. I like that a lot. It translates well. Like, the art style translates well to its gameplay, and I think that's very cool. But overall, I thought Gunfire Reborn was really cool. It's just I'm bad at it.
It's okay, man. I'm here for you. I'll pick you up.
Okay, big boy. So my number 1 was Ori and the Will of the Wisps by Moon Studios.
You know what? I fucking forgot about that game. That probably would have been on my list if I remembered it.
See, I was actually going to say, like, when you were like, yeah, I think the only game that we could agree on was Hades, and I was going to say Ori, but I was like, he's going to guess mine is Ori.
Yeah,
so
you know
what?
That probably would have been it then. Yeah, I don't know if I would have changed my list. Maybe I would have taken off. I don't know. I don't know. Ooh. But it's a damn good game, man. It's up there.
That's what I mean. Like, this is what I meant by, like, each... Originally, it was, like, I like art style and story. Art style, story, and music. And then it just continued to get a little bit deeper where it was, like, lacking gameplay. Gameplay is a bit repetitive. And then it was just like some like nitpicky shit and me not being able to beat the game. But guess fucking what? I beat this game.
Hell yeah!
You don't have to worry.
That's only because of a spoiler cast.
Yes, exactly. Ori and the Will of the Wisps. I just loved it so much. I loved its cinematic nature. I love the massive changes to gameplay between the two. Like having played them one after the other 1 month, and the next month we played Ori and the Will of the Wisps, we got to see exactly how they changed things, and it was like totally different. I very much enjoyed it. I love the new like pin system that they made that very much was just like Hollow Knight. Like it was straight out of fucking Hollow Knight's book.
Yeah. I mean, they clearly took a lot of inspiration from Hollow Knight. But that being said, I love Hollow Knight, and it was Ori and the Will of the Wisps. Pretty great.
They took, yeah. It's like, hey, if you're going to take Metroidvania, like if you're going to take little bits that exist in a Metroidvania, it should be Hollow Knight. Like it just, I get it. So I really, really loved Ori and the Will of the Wisps. I loved the story of its characters and this new world and how it kind of concluded Ori's story specifically. I thought it was awesome. I loved interacting with these characters and learning that there are actually many more kind of like races of creatures that exist within these forests, and it's showing that there's an expansive world that we know nothing about, kind of showing that there is a possibility for later Ori games. I think it's awesome. I absolutely loved Ori and the Will of the Wisps. I think it was fantastic. I honestly can't think of many things that I would have to say that I think are poor about it. The one thing being like that sometimes it has bad checkpoints. That's about it. Like I hated, and this is specifically just in the first boss fight when you fight the Toad, that like having to do that boss fight over and over and over and over again was so fucking annoying. But other than that, honestly loved the game. I don't know if I could say anything more about it because I just feel like it did so much, so perfect. It was just great. There's obviously like no game is perfect. There were things that annoyed me about it, and I'm sure if you listen to the spoiler cast, I probably harped on them a lot.
Probably.
But games is so fucking good. It's so good.
I agree.
Fucking loved it. It's so awesome. So that is our indie games of the year. Of course, Josh's Gunfire Reborn, mine, Ori and the Will of the Wisps. I think it says something about us that we had such different lists entirely. Like the fact, I feel like it does show that Hades is actually a really good game, that both of us had to mention it, one. And just our difference in taste in general is shown with our lists, where it's like,
100%.
I never, like, Hades is the closest to a roguelike I would ever get. And then it's just not happening with any others.
Oh, like, man. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the games you mentioned in your list, I wouldn't really touch either. So it's just, I mean, it's good though.
Exactly.
Hey, we're doing, we're getting the word out for multiple genres and types for whoever, whatever your jam actually is.
Oh, yeah. So, of course, these are our indie game of the years, but I would like to hear yours. So feel free to tweet at us at IndiePod on Twitter, or join our Discord and post in our general chat what your favorite indie game or just game of the year was. I would like to have a discussion about it because typically they're not civil. And I would like to have just kind of a loving discussion about video games. So join our Discord. Go to at IndiePod on Twitter. I have the pinned tweet that actually has an everlasting link to our Discord now, because the other one,
you know what's funny too is I originally
sent
sent you a never-ending link, and you didn't
really?
use that one. Yes.
Whoops.
You big dum-dum.
See, I just went to like, invite people, make a link kind of a thing. Like that's how I did it. And I didn't realize that it put a time limit on it.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of weird. But now, as promised, we have to get into our listener questions. Philip Renshaw, the Wombat Emperor of Australia, writes in and says, what was the best Christmas present you ever received? Not this year, because obviously it would be this weeb hat. But
yeah.
Ever have you received an amazing Christmas present, and what was it?
Not to go with the whole like video game aesthetic to it, but probably an N64. I had one of those moments, the N64 kid. Not as crazy, but that was probably my favorite Christmas gift. Because normal, like now that I'm getting older, you know, a lot of the gifts are just like, here's some money or here's some clothes or whatever. But like the most...
Fuck, dude, I love money, though. There's something special. Actually, here's the thing.
You heard it here, folks.
No, so people are like, money is... They feel like it's disingenuous. They're like, no, it's just... I want to get you something special. And I totally understand that, but when you have absolutely no idea what I want and you can't like deduce it, just give me a gift card.
Yeah.
Like,
well,
and don't make it to a restaurant. Fuck people who give you
yeah.
gift cards to restaurants. That shit is so annoying. Cuz I'm like, bro, I don't like Olive Garden. Like, what made you think I like Olive Garden?
Yeah, I have a couple of gift cards like that where I'm just like, I'm never going to use this.
Yeah, I just sell them to my friends. Like, they're just like, they'll eat it, and I'm just like, that's $10 that I didn't have before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know? But there is also something really special about somebody just buying you something off the list that you gave them. You're
So
like,
ridiculous.
sweet, I didn't have to spend my own money on this.
Yeah, exactly. No, I don't know, because I like... If someone gives me money, I'd probably just like, I'm so bad with rationalizing what that money will go to, and I'm just like, cool, I got money, and then I'm just like, I'll put it in the bank, and then I just never forget, like never remember it, and I'm like it's good, like it's always good to have money, right? But like I don't specifically use it, so I'd rather have it where they give me like a gift card to something specific, even though, you know, maybe you might get that I got it to Olive Garden and then I don't do anything with it. But also Olive Garden, man, I don't go there anymore since they gave me plastic to eat that one time. That was disgusting.
What?
I got the...
Like literal plastic, or
yeah,
you just like...
literal plastic. I got Alfredo fettuccine or whatever it is. And they, like, I guess they wrap, you know, like saran wrap over the like whatever. And it kind of got lost in there. It just looked like a crunchy noodle. And I took a big mouthful of plastic and I was like... And it was like one of those things where you're like, you're at a restaurant, you're in the family, you're like, I'll just keep chewing it and eventually it'll be okay. And I did that for about like 30 seconds and I was like, this is not okay. And I was just like, bah! I just couldn't do it. And I had to
That's a big difference between you and me. I don't fuck with the, like, if it's like, I'm not like, oh, I'll give it a sec to see if it gets better. I'm just like, bleh.
Yeah, and I had to go through that whole rigmarole of like, excuse me, there's plastic in my food. Please take it away.
Did they make you more food, or were they just like, sorry?
No, they were just like, sorry. And I was like, I don't want it. Thank you. And then I just got, you know, my plastic meal for free.
Oh my gosh, dude, I don't fuck with pasta. I just really don't. I don't give a shit about pasta.
I love
like
pasta.
When I go to Olive
I
Garden,
just don't love plastic.
I just get the soup and salad. I'm just like, whatever. I'll get the gnocchi soup or whatever that's basically just dumplings. Like, I'm like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Bread
Do you
and
feel
a
like
sauce.
family, though?
No, I fucking... Olive Garden sucks, dude.
Whew, God.
Olive Garden fucking blows, okay?
Well, anyway,
like, I'm sorry
there goes
for
our...
people who enjoy Olive Garden.
There goes our 2021 sponsor.
Of Olive Garden?
Yeah.
No, I just don't... I'm not feeling it. But, yeah, if you're going to give me a gift card... Oh, dude... My mom gave me a $50 Steam gift card. You best believe
Steam gift cards are great.
Wisely.
Yeah, Steam gift cards are they're generally what I get because my family doesn't know anything about like what I play, but they're just like, we know you like games. Here's a game thing. And I'm like, that's perfect.
Dude, Steam gift cards are great. I bought Dark Souls 2, Scholar of First Sin, so that's all the DLC, Dark Souls 3, and I re-upped my subscription to Star Wars The Old Republic because I'm playing that bad boy again. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
no.
That's
Stop
what
with
I
these
did.
damn MMOs.
They're just comfort food for me,
They're
honestly.
so
And Star Wars
bad.
The Old Republic, like, I've noticed so much about it, and I want to do a video about it so badly to just talk about how different it is. See, here's the thing. I don't understand how you don't like Star Wars The Old Republic because it's not really an MMO. Like, it's an MMO that is not an MMO.
Yeah.
It's much more of a role-playing game than it is anything.
And it's basically a stripped-down version of what KOTOR 3 could have been. It's like, it's not an MMO, but it's just a shitty RPG game. Great. That you can have friends with you and fucking grind forever. It's like, wow, this is what I really wanted from my KOTOR games. Like, get the fuck out of here. No, MMOs are just bad games that they use having friends as their main mechanic to sell their product. No, they're bad. They're all bad.
I think it's weird that I don't play MMOs with my friends and I still love them.
I don't know. You are so nuts. Ugh, they're so bad. Okay, anyway, let's move on.
I still have some money that I did not spend, so don't you worry. But you want to know what really annoys me? Is that the Epic Game Store doesn't have currency, so I could get that. Because I want to buy Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order on the Epic Game Store for $10 less than on Steam, but the currency doesn't exist, Josh. It doesn't.
I told you, they suck. Never buy things from them. What can I say?
Nah, dude, I'm just going to spend $13 on it.
Yeah, I guess that's true. You can.
Yeah, that's really what I'm going to do. There's like a couple things on the Epic Game Store that are cheap right now. Like, I'm going to buy the Remnant DLC, and I'm going to buy Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order because they're cheaper on there than they are on Steam.
I've said it once. I'll say it say it again. I don't have anything against Epic. I'm just stubborn, and I've gotten myself into this weird thing where I won't buy anything from them, and so I just don't want to break it. Nothing against them.
Hey, you're committing to the bit, and I appreciate it. Okay,
that's all I can do. You know, is I have to be loyal to it.
Our best Christmas presents. There's been a couple, it's kind of weird. When you were a kid, you always envisioned your best Christmas presents being like the one thing that you really, really wanted. Like in the Christmas Story, it's like a Red Ryder BB gun kind of a thing. But for me, so I always thought my best Christmas present would be like the fucking Crystal Beast tin that I got when I was a kid, and it came with like the Sapphire Pegasus or whatever for Yu-Gi-Oh. I always thought that would be the thing I looked back on that was like the best thing that was ever purchased for me, or possibly my dad got me, I've talked about this before, but when he bought me my original Xbox and GameCube, the same year, and I thought it was so cool. But there was also something else that he purchased for me that year that still, it's the one thing that I believe is the best gift I've ever received, just in general, not just a Christmas present. And it's kind of like a little bit longer of a story. So when I was a kid, I obviously, I was just a fucking goober, and I liked to write stories all the time, and I did so much so that it actually started to kind of impact my life in general. And my dad, being one of the people who didn't really understand what I was doing, was kind of that stereotypical father in this is odd. It's kind of a weird Hallmark wholesome moment, but how you would expect a father in these situations to be, where he's like, oh, my son's not going out to hang out with his friends and stuff. He's got his heads in the clouds, kind of a thing. That's how he was. But then, so he did that for a long time, and he was very stubborn and stern about it. But one year he ended up purchasing me a journal that continues to be my favorite gift I've ever received. And my dad himself was actually kind of an artist, and I feel like that's actually kind of what tainted it for him, in a sense, is that he loved art, but he never pursued it as a career or anything. He just saw it as a hobby, and his family kind of treated it as so that he could never do that. So he ended up purchasing me a journal, and on the inside inscribing this really nice inscription about how I need to continue to write, and him kind of accepting that side of myself, him being he's not going to change, kind of a thing, and accepting me for who I was. And I very much appreciate that, and still think it's the best gift I've ever received. I still have it. I believe it's actually in my closet in my bedroom, and it's this nice leather bound journal that he got me. It's super cool. I love it. I hate so much that I wrote some dumbass poems in it when I was a kid, and I ended up ripping them out because they were poems about girls I dated.
Gross.
And yeah, right? Fucking gross. Ew.
Ew.
So I ended up ripping out the pages, so now it's just like kind of like fucked up.
Dang.
But still, best gift I've ever received was that one.
That's nice.
So thank you for writing in. The Wombat Emperor of Australia. Chris Penwell writes in and says, "What are your plans for IndiePod in 2021?" Josh, do you have any aspirations that you hope that IndiePod lives up to in 2021?
Man, you know what's annoying is anytime I think about like what I want to do in the future or goals or like New Year's resolution, I'm like, I don't fucking know. I'm so bad with that kind of stuff. Honestly, like what I would like from 2021 for IndiePod is I'd like for us to have more guests. I'd like for us to reach out to a wider audience. I'd like to try and keep up the indie developer interviews, which is kind of, it's been hit or miss just because sometimes it's harder to always get someone every week. But I'd like to keep going with that. And then I think honestly, like I'd probably want to try and focus a bit more on our community and find ways to involve them and to push them to do things. So we did a survey. This is a quick shout out for those who, listen to us and want to give feedback about what we've been doing and, how we've grown over the years. We do have a survey with some basic questions on, how we're doing and what you'd like to see. We had a really good response come in about doing something of having, us get the community and us being the host to actually play a game all together and to talk about our opinions, kind of like a weird like book club, but like a video game club of it, but to create an episode or something around that. And I think that would be really cool. I'd like to do more things like that going forward, or at least to try and have some of those things. But for like a concrete, like this is what we're going to do, I don't fucking know. But we already talked about that. A lot of what we do is winging it. And so hopefully it works out.
So for me, there's a couple of things that I would love to do for IndiePod in 2021. We've already started to kind of like get our foot in the door with it, with having these be video episodes, but I want to make more video content. I don't know if I said this like on the air or off, but I talked to Josh about how I believe we have taken this, this is going to sound bad, but taken it to the logical conclusion of it. Like we're still going to do it, but making the podcast
is over.
Itself
I'm done. Better. Contract
severed.
I'm out. Yeah, you're going to have to look for that third because it's going to be your second soon. I'm out.
Yeah, other than community engagement, I feel like us making this podcast better, the only way we could possibly do that is by involving a third person, but changing up the formula of the podcast itself, I feel like is not something we'll really end up like doing all that much.
Right.
So I feel like we've gotten the audio itself pretty down pat. We understand how this podcast works and we're kind of in the rhythm of it. So I don't think that will change in 2021, but there are a couple things I want to do. I want to start branching off and doing YouTube content. I want to start doing like Let's Plays like Josh has talked about. He would like to do something similar to that instead of like Twitch streaming, which I think is a great idea. Especially if like both of us play games together. That was another one of the suggestions in
I'd like to do that. One of these days we have to play a game together.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'll just make sure we record it then too.
Yeah, exactly.
So we get content out of it. Because all our interactions have to be content.
I mean, that's kind of how it is,
That's, I guess, a content creator's life right there.
It's kind of weird.
Every interaction they have with another individual is content.
Yeah, kind of weird. But
it's definitely weird.
But that being said, like another thing is, it's not really IndiePod related, but I shouted this out on Twitter, and I think it's a really cool idea. I really want to do something about this. I just need to actually do it. But like I want to do that that cocktail beverage show idea, because I think it would be so fucking cool. Because like the idea is I want to do reviews of games, but kind of like semi-review, kind of like previews of games, more or less, like not a full dive into them, but then creating a cocktail, whether it be something that is just a normal cocktail or something that I create to just create and mix things, but like make it themed around that game, whether it be because people of that game would drink it in that world, or whether it just reminds people of the game and like teach people how to create the cocktail is like the first half. And then the second half would be me drinking that cocktail and like talking about the game and shit like that. And I thought it was so cool. I ended up creating this idea just as like a joke with Caitlin over Twitter. And I think it would be so legit. I don't know why. It seems cool. I like it.
I think it's a really cool idea, especially if you ended up kind of getting like, and this is just me kind of once again pulling like the artisan piece into it. But especially if you got into the depth of it. So talking about not just necessarily the game itself, but feelings that the game invokes and relating those to specific pieces. So it'd be like, oh, to invoke the sadness in Ori and the Will of the Wisps, I use this specific kind of like alcohol in a way. Like, I think that would be so cool, and I would love to see how you would navigate that and how that would work. And Caitlin seems really cool. I've listened to, I think, like one episode of her podcast, and I listened to her on Active Quest, and she did a great job. Also was talking about how Hades is super thirsty and she's into it too, so that's awesome. Yeah, I would love that story. I want you to create more content just because I love you in general. And so I want more of it to be for IndiePod, obviously. But you making any content in the world is amazing.
Yeah, I don't know that would be an IndiePod related thing. Maybe not. But
no. I'm just talking about like Let's Plays.
I know. Yeah, I'm down to do Let's Plays. I would love to do something like that. So for sure, we'll find a way to make more content. I'm sure it'll work out.
Yeah, and for me, I want to make more video stuff, whether that's Let's Plays or reviews for indie games in general. I would very much enjoy that. Kind of a way to, like, another one of the things we had in our survey was a follow-up, like more follow-ups on games, like how I would often talk about games over several weeks. And Josh does so as well. I think it would be, like, having an actual review of that would contribute to it, so you could basically, like, track our evolution of ideas from when we originally play the game to when we finish it, and when we have a chance to like sit down and actually write it down and process our emotions. I feel like that'll also really help develop our thoughts on things, because as I was saying, like, my Unto the End review is several pages. Like, it's gonna be long, and that's because I'm processing my emotions and how I'm actually dealing with this game versus just being like, combat's hard.
Combat is hard. 10 out of 10.
So I very much just want to make more video content. That's the thing I really want to move into. And of course, involving our community is also a big thing that I want to do as well, because they're amazing. However rowdy and fucking weird, they're fantastic.
They're, God, what was that inclusive thing? Like, all inclusive as long as you like poop jokes or something. Like,
yeah, our new mission statement is really great. I feel somewhat sad that I didn't actually pin the tweet, because damn, that shit was good. Yeah. It was so freaking good. I'm like trying to find it now, but I'm just running into like weird ass shit.
Yeah, quick search for slap that shit. I remember saying that. Yeah, okay, slap that. Oh, I just found it. All right, where is it? I'd like to think that we are this is from Philip. I would like to think we are an inclusive group. No matter your gender, race, sexual preferences, or gender identity, as long as you like poop jokes, you are welcome here.
He's not wrong.
It's very true.
Gosh. Speaking of, let's get back to our listener questions. Chris Penwell also says, also a throwback. Which game character has the most big dick energy? Who would you say has the most big dick energy in a video game?
Whatever the hell his name is from Cyberpunk. Johnny Silverhands.
Oh, so Keanu Reeves. Just in general. Keanu Reeves playing himself with a cybernetic arm. That's who has the most big dick energy.
Hell yeah, dude. 100%.
Okay. I mean, hate to go CD Projekt Red again, but fucking Geralt of Rivia's got some fat, just like big chongus penis energy. You know what I mean? Like, he's a fat dick. Okay.
Plus, now you could do it for Vin Diesel in Arc 2.
Dude, fuck that guy. Like, no.
I mean, I'm not really too crazy about his character either, but just saying. He's got that, like, big dick energy.
I'm
big
so
brute
interested to see
energy.
how that goes because I don't think he's a good actor. Like
I don't either.
I think the Chronicles of Riddick movies are cool, like Pitch Black, Chronicles of Riddick, and I have yet to actually see Riddick, but I want to. I think they're cool, but Vin Diesel's his performances in them are not necessarily what makes them cool. It's just the storyline of the movies in general. So I'm very excited to see him stumble his way through an entire video game performance. It'll be great. It'll be fantastic.
A lot of grunts.
We'll see how it goes. I mean, I didn't play that Fast and the Furious game. Maybe it's way better than I give it credit for, but I truly doubt it.
No.
And lastly, Will C writes in and says, with all the talk about having a child the past few weeks, my question is, if you had to name a child, or like our child, based off of video game character, no, sadly not. No, sadly not. Video game character, anything from a game, what would it be? I have a son named Reed, who is also a ginger, but if I had my way, I would rename him to Vaughn. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
What a weird
Happy
thing.
New Year 2021.
What a weird thing. Like, let's say that did happen. That kid would be so confused.
Yeah, he's like 10 years old and is like, but no, and he's like, shh, 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 shh.
Vaughn,
You are Vaughn.
stop.
That would be so funny.
What a strange world that would be. To answer the question,
I appreciate the sentiment.
I mean,
Thanks
yeah,
very much,
it's
Will.
nice. I mean, he didn't name him after me, so clearly you
He
win.
calls him the Vaughn boy. He's like the Vaughn Josh boy, and the kid's
Vaughn
like,
Josh.
why though? And he's like, shut up.
Shut up. If I had to pick one, obviously I would try to go for a name that isn't like weird in context of like video games, because most video games are like Raz blah blah nah or whatever it is, and you're
His
like,
name is
okay.
Rasputin, but yeah.
Well, no, I'm not talking about him specifically. That just works. But like,
Yeah.
like
You don't want to name your kid Cloud?
You have these weird, yeah. Like I'm not gonna name him
Cloud
Cloud
Strife?
or something
Sephiroth?
crazy. Well, maybe Sephiroth. But I would think when my wife and I talk about kids, generally she's always like, it's gonna be a girl. It has to be a girl. It has to be a girl. So I've gotten away, like not gotten away, but I've gotten to the point where I'm just like, it's probably a girl. Granted, it'll be a boy. Who cares? But I just always have it in my head that it'll probably be a girl if we ever have a kid. So I would go with, from Animal Crossing, Isabelle, because Isabelle is great.
Really?
Isabelle is great.
Okay. All right. So for me, one from an indie game. So I actually I really want to become a father. Obviously, I've talked about this. But another thing is like, every name I have is actually from like pop culture or a video game that I want to name my children. So initially I wanted to name, if I had a son, I was dead set on naming my kid Oliver. And that's actually the main character of Ni no Kuni. It's also like, I love the Green Arrow, so that was also a little tidbit of it. Like Oliver Queen. But Oliver in Ni no Kuni is such an interesting character, and I love that he's such a steadfast character, and he's so fun-loving, plus he's actually a ginger, so I really respect that. And, you know, it's like a little bit of a meta joke. So I wanted to name my son Oliver, especially if he was a redhead. If he wasn't, I'd just like...
just disown him.
Toss him to the wolves like the Spartans did. But, you know, some other names I had, which is kind of hilarious now depending on how you feel about it, but I wanted to name a daughter Ellie from The Last of Us, but The Last of Us 2 came out, and I'm just like, I mean,
Yeah.
I still love her, but like less. So
Doesn't
I
feel
still
the
love her
same.
character so much, but I don't feel the exact same I do about her, but I still adore that name in general. So I would love to name a daughter Ellie. Like, also, I love how you're like, yeah, my wife is like, it's going to be a girl. It's a girl. It's a girl. I actually want to have girls. I don't know necessarily if I actually want to have a son. That's the thing, is like,
I don't know. I go back and forth on this, because like I feel like it would be easier to have a son, because like
Yeah.
biologically things would just be easier to.
and you would also understand them.
Yeah, like that's what I mean by like a biological sense. Like I would know what they're going to go through, as opposed to a girl. If they came to me with their problems, I'd be like, I don't know. We got to figure it out, I guess. Like kind
You'd
of a
give
thing.
them a sponge, you know what I mean? They're just like, Dad, something's going on, and you're just like, here, I don't know how to deal with that.
I don't
Like,
know.
ask your mom.
Ask your mother. So
that wasn't a kitchen joke, by the way. That was a period joke. I just want to get that out of the way, so nobody thought that it was like a cleaning joke.
Yeah, no, I thought the period one too, but
Okay, I'm glad you did.
yeah. But then again, like I feel like a girl would probably be easier to. Well, maybe not. I don't know, man. I don't fucking know. That's it. I just don't know. I don't know.
I honestly don't understand necessarily. Like, I feel like a boy would be harder in the long term. Like, yeah, it would be hard to understand like a girl's point of view kind of a thing and how to raise them, because I just don't understand what it's like to live as a woman in the world. Right. And I think having that conversation about how people would respect them possibly less because of their gender would be an incredibly hard one to have, similar to like people having to discuss racial issues with their children. Would be an incredibly hard one to have. And I'm, I guess, truly blessed to never have to do that, hopefully. Well, I mean, obviously I get to explain it from my perspective, but I never have to explain how like I get persecuted because I'm white. Right. So, you know,
a white male,
but yeah,
the
exactly.
Struggles.
Like I've got this shit fucking easy. I'm playing this game on easy mode. So yeah, it's but you're like, no,
I don't like it.
But yeah, I just like the idea of having daughters. It's just, I don't know why. But more names, I guess. My wife and I really enjoy the name Lilith, and we're probably going to end up naming our first daughter that. I had to like write my life story, and I said that we had multiple daughters. That was like a paper I had to write for a class, and I was just like, fuck it, we had daughters.
All right.
So Lilith, because my wife says she's the baddest bitch in the Bible, and I think that's a hilarious thing to say. Plus, I just really like the name. So, yeah, she's like Satan's wife, depending on what religious like philosophy you follow. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of interesting. I enjoy the name, and I just think the entire like, I guess, idea behind it is really interesting. So, obviously not video game related, and neither is this next one. This is more like pop culture-y, but another name I would really like to name a son if I have one is Wallace, because I'm a big fan of Wally West from he's Kid Flash or the Flash, depending on what comic you're talking about. But I very much enjoy Wally West, and also a ginger. So hopefully, just like crossing my fingers for these fucking ginger kids. Well, I guess that's also depending on what you watch. But yeah, I also, there's like a movie I love called What If, and the main character is named Wallace. So there you go. Please don't steal my baby names. I have to say that. If you have a child and you name them any of the names that I enjoy, I will track you down and kiss you on the mouth, because I love you all so much. Thank you.
Oh my God.
You're so great. But that is the end of this episode. Thanks everyone so much for listening. We have officially answered all of your question and told you all your question. That's not what I meant to say. But
good enough.
We've
Close
also
enough.
given you our indie game of the years. I hope you enjoyed this. Of course, back to our housekeeping. We've got our developer interview coming up this Wednesday. It's Gensbron and Ines of Off the Beaten Track. And it's the cost of recovery is their game. Looks cool. Seems cool. I'm into the idea of it. Please check out the IndiePod store over on Teespring for t-shirts and stickers, soon to be more. We have the YouTube. If you are watching this on there, just click that subscribe button. If you are not, go over there and do it anyway, okay? God,
why not?
Why you hate me? We're going to be putting out more content, don't you worry. Please leave us reviews on whatever you can, specifically iTunes, because it helps us supposedly. And lastly, our patrons, thank you so much to Wilsey, Mixomatosis, a.k.a. Mix, Zach Durham, Chase Hopkins, Philip Renshaw, the Wombat Emperor of Australia, Chris Penwell, Josh Nichols, and Sam Fillion from Canada. Thank you all so much. Of course, if you would like to chat with us outside of the show, you could do so at IndiePod on Twitter, where we post our question thread, as well as remind you about the episodes themselves and just kind of general indie game knowledge and news over there. Try to keep you like in the know about that kind of stuff, even if we can't mention it on the podcast. You can follow me specifically at Hyde Legion, HYDELEGION, over on Twitter for all of my dumb bullshit and possibly some independent like video content I will be putting up on my own. And you can follow Josh at _Jorsh90 or _Jorsh over on Twitch. Any last things you would like to shout out?
No, thanks for the great year, everyone. This was although this year sucked, we made quite a lot of progress from an indie pod perspective. So it's been great to build a community and make a bunch of dumb jokes.
Yeah,
thanks.
Absolutely. Like, however much people say that we made their lives a little bit better this year,
No one said that.
I have to make sure you understand that you made mine infinitely better. Like Josh especially, obviously, just his inclusion in my life was amazing. I love that we got to do this, and just this is like escapism for me. I don't have to like bother with anything else. I just get to talk to a friend about indie games, and it's amazing. And I'm so glad that I made this friend, and I'm so glad that I've made so many more because of this community. You're all amazing. Please join our Discord, become part of the conversation about indie games or poop or whatever we talk about, because we're fucking dumb.
Sounds about right.
That is the end of this episode. Thanks everyone so much for listening, and here's to another year of IndiePod.
And hopefully a better year overall.
Yeah, that's a good point.